There's a quiet power in knowing who you are. It's not loud, it's not boastful. It's a kind of electricity that fills the room before you even say a word. But here's the catch no one tells you. When your aura is strong, when your energy is aligned, it will not always be welcomed. In fact, sometimes it will disturb others. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because standing in your truth reminds others of the places where they are still hiding. Today, I want to talk about the 13 signs that your aura and your energy is so powerful, it can shake the walls others have built around themselves. And you live in a way that is true to your core. When your words, actions, and values align, you create a presence that is deeply powerful, whether you intend to or not. Authenticity carries an invisible force. It says, this is who I am, even if it's messy, even if it's not always understood, even if it makes you uncomfortable. And that kind of truth can be unsettling to those who are still hiding parts of themselves. It's not because you're trying to provoke them. It's because the very act of you standing fully in your own skin holds up a mirror, and mirrors don't lie. They show the masks we wear, the compromises we make, the dreams we've deferred, and the truths we've buried to survive. When people encounter your authenticity, they may feel exposed without you ever pointing a finger. They may react with defensiveness, judgment, or even distance, not because you have harmed them, but because your energy challenges the walls they have built around their own hearts. It's easier to label someone too intense, too sensitive, or too much than to ask, what part of me feels threatened by their freedom? But here's the beautiful, painful truth. Your authenticity is not a weapon. It's an invitation. It's a call for others to remember who they were before the world told them who to be. Some will answer that call with gratitude. Others will retreat in fear. Neither reaction is your responsibility to manage or fix. The room is just a glimpse in your control. You can anchor your mind on purpose. The great cause that we honor is both the greatest and the lowest. To honor the light that stirs others, even if it sometimes causes a storm. Because real power is not about being accepted, it's about being real, even when realness disrupts the status quo. So if you find yourself in rooms where your presence feels too much, if you notice eyes turning away or walls going up when you speak your truth, know this. It's not a sign that you should shrink. It's a sign that your authenticity is working exactly the way it's meant to. Keep shining, keep showing up. Not everyone will be ready to meet you there, but the ones who are will find you by the light you refuse to dim. When you decide to stop bending yourself to fit into places you've outgrown, when you choose to speak with honesty instead of convenience, when you dare to honor your soul's voice over the world's noise, something profound happens. You become unshakable. And that kind of solidity can feel threatening to those who are used to fluid, familiar masks. The reality is, we live in a world where conformity is often rewarded more than courage, where staying quiet is confused with being kind, where abandoning yourself for the comfort of others is mistaken for love. So when you stand firmly in your truth, when you say, this is what I believe, this is what I will no longer tolerate, this is who I am unapologetically, you disrupt an invisible contract that says, let's all pretend together. And disruption, even when it is rooted in love, can make people uncomfortable. And not everyone is ready to witness someone live freely because it reminds them of all the times they chose fear instead of freedom. You may find that your honesty is met with suspicion. You may notice people whisper behind your back, assign motives to your actions that don't exist, or label you difficult, cold, arrogant, rebellious, not because you have changed in a harmful way, but because you have stopped performing for their approval. It's deeply painful to be misunderstood, especially when your intentions are pure. It can feel isolating to be labeled intimidating, especially when you're just trying to live without apology. But hear this clearly. Your job was never to be understood by everyone. Your job is to be at peace with yourself. Some people will misinterpret your strength because they are still learning how to carry their own. Some will call you intimidating simply because your certainty highlights their doubts. Some will walk away not because you were wrong, but because your presence challenged them to step up and they weren't ready. And none of that is a reflection of your worth. It's simply a reflection of where they are on their journey. Standing firmly in your truth is an act of courage. And courage by nature will always stir discomfort before it inspires respect. So let the misunderstanding come. Let the intimidation be felt. Let the waves crash around you if they must, because in the end, the people who are meant for you will not be intimidated by your truth. They will be drawn to it, hungry for it, inspired by it, healed by it. Stand tall anyway. Speak clear anyway. Be unapologetically you anyway. You were not born to be understood by everyone. You were born to be true to yourself. There's something powerful that happens when your energy shifts, when you become aligned, not with expectations, but with your own truth. It's like a silent ripple moving through the spaces you enter, touching everything without making a sound. When your aura is strong, not because of arrogance, but because of authenticity, it becomes a catalyst. Without trying, you begin to awaken things in other people. You remind them of the dreams they set aside. You stir up the courage they buried under fear. You awaken parts of their hearts they thought were too risky to love. Your presence, your light, your sheer commitment to being real, it calls something forward in others. And while some will feel deeply inspired, others will feel deeply exposed. Both reactions are part of the work your energy is doing. Some people will rise because of you. Being around your spirit will feel like inhaling fresh air after years of breathing dust. They will start making decisions they once feared. They will begin stepping into the lives they secretly longed for. It won't always tell you it was your energy that helped them remember, but you'll see it in the way they start to glow. Other people, however, will distance themselves, not out of hatred, not always even out of malice, but because growth is painful, and not everyone is ready to sit in that kind of heat. Your strength may remind them of their own perceived weakness. Your progress might reflect the areas where they still feel stuck. Your clarity might bring their confusion into sharper focus, and for some, that's simply too much to bear, at least for now. And it's important to understand, when people pull away from you after your energy shifts, it's not necessarily a failure. It's often a natural consequence of your evolution. Growth demands separation sometimes, not because you're better than others, but because your path requires different air to breathe, different soil to root in, different light to expand under, and that's okay. It's not your job to slow down your growth to make others comfortable. It's not your task to water yourself down so others can stay dry. A strong aura does what it is meant to do. It inspires movement. It inspires change. It inspires soul-deep reflection. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let people step back if they need to. Sometimes the most sacred thing you can offer is the space for them to find their own way in their own time. So if you feel people growing distant as you step more fully into yourself, Do not assume you have done something wrong. You have simply become a mirror that some are not yet ready to look into. Keep growing, keep radiating, keep choosing evolution over comfort. Because the right people, the ones who are hungry for growth, ready for truth, willing to stand in their own light, they will not be threatened by your power. They will be ignited by it. And together you will rise even higher. There comes a point in your journey where you realize that your peace is priceless, that your time, your heart, your presence, they are sacred offerings, not obligations. And from that awareness, boundaries are born. Not out of bitterness, not out of pride, but out of deep, abiding self-respect. A boundary says, I know my worth enough to protect it. It says, I am willing to disappoint others before I betray myself. It is not a wall that shuts people out. It is a gate that chooses carefully who gets close. Maintaining boundaries is not about control, it's about care. It's about recognizing that your energy is a finite resource and not every situation, conversation, or relationship deserves your full access. Not because you think you're better than others, but because you finally understand that not every invitation is meant to be accepted, not every demand is meant to be answered, not every expectation is meant to be honored. When you hold strong boundaries, some people will call you selfish. Let them. Their discomfort is not your burden to carry. You know that true generosity comes from a full cup. And protecting that fullness is not selfish, it is wise. You cannot pour out love, kindness, creativity, or presence if you are constantly depleted. Alongside boundaries comes another mark of truth and power, valuing energy over appearances. We have conditioned to be dazzled by surface, to believe that shiny exteriors, polished words, curated images are possible you step into look for. You stop listening with your eyes, you start listening with your soul. You stop asking where they look like and start asking how do they feel. You stop chasing status, validation, and emotion. You start tuning in to frequency, presence, authenticity. You begin to understand that energy doesn't lie. That person's vibe, the feeling they carry into a room, the way your spirit reacts to theirs, those are the true markers of connection and truth, not the costumes they wear. Valuing energy means you can sit across from someone with impressive titles, awards, money, charisma, and still choose to walk away if the energy feels heavy, manipulative, or hollow. It means you no longer sacrifice your instincts on the altar of appearance. And when you live this way, honoring your boundaries, trusting your energetic intelligence, you become unshakable, rooted, free. It is not a loud freedom, not a boastful power. It's quiet, it's calm. It's a deep knowing that you will no longer abandon yourself for the sake of appearances, approval, or attachment. That is the mark of someone who has come home to themselves. That is the mark of real, earned, lived-in power. So hold your boundaries without apology. Value energy over sparkle without shame. Protect your peace without guilt. Because when you do, you send a message to the universe, to yourself, to everyone you meet. I am sacred, and only those who treat me as such will have the privilege to stay. When you start living in alignment with your soul, when you choose to honor your truth over pleasing others, you will inevitably encounter seasons of loneliness. You will feel the sting of rejection, sometimes sharp, sometimes subtle, but almost always surprising. Because the world, for all its talk about authenticity, often rewards conformity more than courage. It's easy to cheer for someone who fits the mold. It's much harder to stand beside someone who breaks it. True empowerment, the deep, unshakable kind, asks you to stand alone sometimes. It asks you to keep walking when others fall away. It asks you to believe in your own worth, even when the applause stops, even when the room gets quiet, even when the room gets quiet. Empowerment is not just about having a strong voice. It's about having a strong spirit. It's about choosing yourself when others choose to misunderstand you. It's about staying rooted in your own truth when rejection tempts you to abandon it. It's about recognizing that loneliness is not a punishment. It's often proof that you are no longer willing to settle for half-hearted connections, conditional love, or hollow validation. There is a loneliness that comes from standing at the edge of your old life, looking back at the people who once knew you, realizing they were comfortable with your past self, but unsure how to love your evolving one. There is a loneliness that comes from setting boundaries, from saying no, from choosing healing over cycles, from choosing peace over chaos. There is a loneliness that comes from realizing that some people loved the version of you who needed them, but are uneasy around the version of you who doesn't. And yet, this loneliness is sacred. It is the sacred silence where you meet your real self. It is the fertile soil where your next chapter begins. It is the space where you shed your old skin and step into a new, unapologetic existence. You must be willing to sit in that loneliness without rushing to fill it. You must be willing to feel the ache of rejection without folding yourself smaller just to be accepted. Because every time you resist the urge to betray yourself for the sake of belonging, you build an inner home so solid that no external approval could ever replace it. You build a life that is based not on performance, but on presence. Not on chasing, but on choosing. Not on desperation, but on deep, radical self-love. True empowerment whispers, I would rather be alone in my truth than surrounded in my betrayal. I would rather be misunderstood for who I am than loved for who I am not. Loneliness will pass. Rejection will wound, but it will not destroy you. What will remain after the echoes of old expectations fall away is the powerful, vibrant, liberated you. A you that no longer needs permission to exist, a you that no longer bends to fit into places you have outgrown, a you that stands whole and holy in your own light. And from that place, new people will come, new connections built on truth, not performance, new love, rooted in freedom, not fear. New belonging, sacred and real, but only because you first had the courage to belong fully to yourself. There is something profoundly powerful about stepping into your own light, about owning your strengths, your flaws, your story, and your truth. It's like a radiant energy that shifts the very air around you. It can feel warm, comforting, and inviting to those who are ready to embrace it. But to those who are still hiding from themselves, your light can feel like a threat. It can feel uncomfortable, even disruptive, because it shines into the shadowed corners of their own hearts, where they have buried their truth. The truth is, the world has taught us to hide. We have been taught to mask our vulnerability, to cover our wounds, to perform, to be perfect. And for many, the idea of being seen in all of our authentic glory feels terrifying. It feels like exposure, like a stripping away of the layers that have protected us from the world's judgments. So when you show up fully in your truth, your confidence, your radiant self, it forces them to confront the parts of themselves they have avoided. It holds up a mirror to their own fears, their own self-doubt, their own unhealed wounds. That's not your fault. It's not your responsibility to dim your light because it makes others uncomfortable. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's a sacred duty to let your light shine because there are others out there who need to see it. There are others who are waiting for permission to stand in their own light, waiting for someone to model what it looks like to be unapologetically you. But the harsh truth is this: not everyone will be ready for that. Not everyone will welcome your light, because your light disturbs the illusion that they've been holding on to. It shakes up their comfort zone. It reminds them of their own unspoken dreams. It challenges their carefully constructed version of safe. The more you step into your truth, the more people will either be drawn to you or pushed away. The ones who are ready, who are willing to face their own shadows and step into their own power, will be magnetized by your authenticity. They will feel your energy and say, yes, I want that too. They will rise alongside you, supporting you, inspired by you. But others, those who are still living in fear, still hiding behind walls,